having so the nasal vowels, again, it's like speaking through your nose, like you have a stuffed nose, and it's an, in, and un. So when you have your tongue, it touches the roof of your mouth, okay? When you speak the language or any other language, you use your mouth, your tongue, your nasal, your guttural, your esophagus. When we make our guttural sounds, it comes from your esophagus, and your explosive sounds come from, like, it's air coming from your throat. So as we go along, we will use some of these words, because I explained about the Dakota letters. And when we say the G and the little asterisk above it, the guttural sound would be wanachi. So it's kind of like you have a lot of saliva in your mouth when you say the G. So when you practice, it starts to become okay. When we have an aspirated H, it's hota. So it's coming again from your esophagus. It's like air coming out of your throat. Hota. So when we talk about the exploded K, it's a k sound. So again, it's from the back of your throat. And again, when you practice, it will come more easy. When we talk about the exploded P, and it's po, po, po. So we practice some of these letters before. When we say the nasal N, 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 n. So it's comes from your nose, and you have to hold your tongue on your palate when you say the n sound. So again, practice that. There's a T that's exploded. When we say exploded, you can still hear it when you say the word. And we used it in the T as in pte, pte, pte. So that your tongue goes against the back of your front teeth. Pte, pte. And you could still hear the E, but it sounds like a eh sound. Okay, a short E. What's the other ones? So that's what we practice. We practiced our tiwahe, our kinship, our immediate family, mitakuye. I talked about how we have our kinship in our immediate family, our biological family. It's mitakuye. But then again, we have adopted relatives too. We include them in our kinship, in our tiwahe, regardless if they're not biological. We have an adoption ceremony. That's how that takes place. We counted to 10. Wancha, Nupa, Yamani, Dopa, Zapta, Shakpe, Shakawi, Shakdoga, Napchuanka, Wikchemna. Then again, I said to write these down the way you will understand, how you would read it to understand it for yourself. You can put it in syllables. A lot of people understand a language if it's in syllables. So you can write it the way you want to understand it. And it's easier for you to learn that way too, if you write it the way you want to, the way you will understand it, okay? And our colors, wapi, sha, z, zisha, to. Again, there's that aspirated explosive T, to, to. When you say that, you can feel that vibration in your throat, okay? When you start talking and saying that. Pejito is green, okay? Pejito. Sapa, ska, hota. There's that esophagus, guttural H again. Hota. Ri. So the G in this one is kind of a guttural one, and it's kind of aspirated at the same time. So it's ri, shasha, shashta. So purple and pink, people usually get mixed up. So always remember purple with the T, shashta, shashta. And then again, our relative had mentioned in Sioux Valley, they say toshta, toshta, okay? And Sioux Valley again, when they say pink, they say rikta, rikta, gikta. So that's Sioux Valley. Again, I talked about territorial language. In Manitoba, they say little words a little bit different in their Dakota reserves. Here in Saskatchewan, we say our Dakota words a little bit different, but somehow everybody understands each other. So I think that goes for the Cree. The Cree have their different territories of their language too. So Dakota is like that too. The Nakota and Lakota are like that too. You can know where somebody comes from by listening to their language. Okay. And we had our 7 days in Petu Shakawi. And literally that means day and 7. And the English is 7 days. So our Dakota Saturday is Empetu Owanka Yujajapi. Literally, that means day, floors, wash. And that's Saturday. And then again, I said, this day was made back prior to residential school. And residential school, that's what they used to do on Saturdays. So the Dakota people, they made their own days of the week to match, to accommodate what they were living in, the way they were living, right? So back in the TP days, the pre-residential school, we never had the days of the week. We never had special days. Our calendar was made on buffalo hides. My uncle Wayne Goodwill has teachings of that. He does the calendars on the buffalo hides, and he has his stories. But this was made during the residential school days, the 7 days. So that's why Saturday is wash the floors days. Then Sunday, Empetu Waka, day holy. That's the literal translation. And that's Sunday. And Waka is holy. That's what it means, a holy day. And that signifies a day of prayer. Because in residential school was a Sunday, that day of prayer. Empetu Waji is day 1st, Monday. Empetu Inumpa is day 2, Tuesday. Empetu Iyamani is day 3, Wednesday. Empetu Itopa is day 4, Thursday. Empetu Izapta, there's that nasalized again, Izapta, day 5 is Friday. Okay, so that's the days of the week that we created after residential school. And we went over some animals, not all, and some birds. I could go more into the birds and animals, but these are the basic ones. So we went Tatanka is buffalo, Shunka is dog, Shunka Wakan is horse. Again, there's holy. Wakan is holy. So it's like a holy dog. And we label that as a horse. Again, this was signified or made before the TPE days, right? Before residential school, because the horse came to us. We never had horses back then until they were brought to us. Tachja. There's that guttural esophagus sound to make the deer. Tachja. So when you have that in your mouth, you say it to yourself, practice it at home. and then it'll come naturally later how you use your esophagus, your throat, and your nasalized N. You can practice that. Again, it's okay to laugh, to have fun, to learn, right? And if you do it and practice it with somebody, if you're learning together with somebody, or if you know how to teach somebody, tell them to teach them how to make the sounds with your esophagus, your throat, your nasalized, and how you learn to have your tongue on your palate when you talk. A lot of people, well, some people, they feel that they can't do that because they're kind of shy, but practice it. And for me, I felt like I had to always practice all the time. And because when you don't speak the language for a while and you start speaking it with somebody, and you start, for me, I start missing it, because for me, I used to always hear it from my mom and my auntie and that, and we used to always, converse. And then now with my nieces and my sister and all of them, we're all starting to keep that, right? So we all practice together yet, and it's fun. Okay. So hitunkana is mouse. Hitunkana. Rabbit is mastincha. Mastincha. Bear is mato. Mato. Eagle is wambadi. Wambadi. Fish is honga. Honga. On this one, I started telling people to practice to make little sentences using your colors and your numbers. Some of your numbers you already learned only up to 10, but that's okay. You can start identifying how to make a sentence just by labeling your your subject. The subject would be the hurrah. Hurrah is 5. There's 5 there. Hurrah zapta. So that's 5 fish, right? Hurrah zapta. And we could add our colors, right? Add our colors to that. Hurrah zapta to, or hurrah waji to. 1 blue fish. And again, wambadi numpa. There's 2 eagles. Wambadi numpa. Because when you're going to pluralize something, you don't add a S or a ing or a ed. You don't say wambadis because there's more than one. You have to add the number. Wambadi numpa. And again, we have mastincha ri, a brown rabbit. Tachcha numpa ri. So there's 2 brown deer. Mastincha ska was waji here. And remember, 2 weeks ago, I said here means no. That's a command. Here. So mastincha ska waji here. Mastincha ri waji. 1 brown rabbit. Because ska means white, right? Okay. So that's what we kind of practice. Again, I gave you some words to practice, some command words, and to explain me and you and yours. So I want means wachi. So wachi, you have to make sure that you say it the right way and you recognize it in the sentence structure, because wachi can mean dance. Okay, so you have to recognize how you say it. Wachi is I want with the N at the end. Wachi is to dance without the N at the end. So hot dog, wachi. I want a hot dog. Okay. Or else you could say hot dog, wachi, numpa. I want 2 hot dogs. Right? When you speak the English and any kind of language, Dakota, Cree, Dene, Soro, whatever you speak English and another language, it's called a blended language. Okay. And it's okay to say that because you're learning a language, or you have a language by learning a few words and you're speaking it with English. It's a blended language. Okay. So we went mak'u, mak'u. That means give me. Okay, mak'u. And we said, mini mak'u, give me water. Mini means water. Okay, mini mak'u, give me water. So when we say Ija, Ija, him or her too, or someone also, we say Mija, me too, right? Mija, and you too, Nija, Nija, right? And him or her or somebody, Ia, Ia, Mia, me, Mia, Nia is you, Nia. So there's a pattern there, right? Tawa, Tawa is his or hers or someone's. So me tawa is mine. Me tawa. Ni tawa is yours. So the pattern there is the me and the ni, right? So when you listen to somebody talk, when they say me, they're talking about themselves, right? When they say ni, they say yours. So when people speak a language, they use a lot of hand signs, or they nod to people, or nija, their head goes, right? Nia, right? Nitawa, yours. They use a lot of body language with their hands and their heads. They're nodding, right? So you pay attention to that too when they're speaking a language. So we went with some food, some wuyuta, pudding, wojapi, meat is tado, potato is bado, soup is wahampi, bread is aguiapi, cake is aguiapi, squiyana. Sugar is chahampi, chahampi. And corn is wamnaheza, wamnaheza. Vegetables, takushnishni, takushnishni. Pumpkin is wamanu, wamanu. And onions, this is the aspirated S, she, she, she. It has the explosive P in it, where it's p, 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 and the S is a sh, she. So when you practice that, it'll start coming naturally again, how you say your letters, pshi. And waskuyacha, that one you could put into syllables to help yourself understand. And then those are fruits of all kind. When they make waskuyacha, it's always strawberries, cherries, any kind of fruit in one, and it's like with the juice. And that's what it's a delicacy to the people. And choke cherries, champa, champa. And that too is crushed choke cherries, and they make it with they always make it with lard, huh? So that's a delicacy to the Dakota people. Oranges, tashpa zizi, tashpa zizi. And again in Sioux Valley, our relative had made mention to tonka, tonka. Tonka is something big, right? So tonka, tonka. There's that guttural sound in your throat again, in your esophagus, and where you have to feel like you have to have a lot of saliva in your mouth to say that word, right? Apples is tashpa, tashpa. Candy is chahampi, shashana, chahampi, shashana, right? and you go back, you can see sugar is chahampi, right? So you can see connections in words all the time. You can find it where all the words are connected. There's some kind of connection. And shashana is like pink, right? So it's pink sugar. So a long time ago, when the Dakota people start celebrating Christmas and that's how they recognized that. They made that word for candy, chahampi shashana. It's kind of like a pink candy. And our yatka, our drink, our tea is wachbe. There's that H, that kind of nasalized guttural H, wachbe, wachbe, and the P is kind of explosive. Our juice is hampi, hampi. Our water is meni. Our milk is asampi, asampi. Our coffee is pejuta sapa. And I said before, pejuta means medicine, right? And sapa is black. We learned that in the colors, sapa. So pejuta sapa, black medicine. And that word again too was made prior to or after residential school. They made that pejuta sapa. Connecting words again. When we connect our sentences, we start structuring our sentences. Some of the words that we connect with are the, which means ki. You can see that at the end of some words, ki. And is ka, ka. Again, that's kind of a guttural K, ka. Well is ito, ito. But is tka, tka. You can hear that T and that K, it connects, tka, tka, okay? So you practice those and you'll learn. And our head is pa, right? Our head, the whole head is pa. So our hair is pahi, okay? Pahi. Our eye is ishta. Our ear is noche, okay? The whole ear is noche. And our mouth is ita, ita. Our nose is poche, poche. And our tooth is he. Then again, our mouth is e, like inside our mouth, e, right? So there's two things for mouth here. One is ita, one is e, okay? Our body parts, tacha, tacha. Pa is our whole head. Nape is our hand, okay? Nape. And one finger is napsukaza, napsukza, napsukaza. Our foot, the whole foot is siha, siha. Again, you kind of really don't hear the S, but it's there, siha. When you say it really fast, siha. And our stomach, the whole stomach is tezi, okay? Tezi. You always hear people talking about tanira. That's the tripe. That's the intestines, right? So this is our stomach. On the outer part is tezi, okay? And a whole arm is ishto. Our whole arm is ishto. Our elbow is ishpa, okay? Ishpa, but the whole arm is ishto. Our ankle is ishkahu, ishkahu, but our whole leg is hu, okay? Again, we had quantity words. We had none, waziacha, waziacha. Once is wancha. Again, when we learned our numbers, I said people use wancha or waji, right? So in the numbers, when we count 1, 2, 3, we say waji, but when you say once is wancha, right? Then again, the older people, they use it as a command, right? When they want something. And all is owasan, the all of something, right? When you hear people, when they say mitakuye owasan, mitakuye, remember it means relatives, right? All our relatives. And owasan is all. Mitakuye owasan. That's what it means, all our relatives. So the lots of something is ota. So there's lots of something and it's called ota. And more is sumpa. And only some of something is ochen. There's that G again that's got around ochen. Okay, and the E is kind of like a short E. Okay. Again, we went over our clothes, our hiak. Our dress is sangsanicha. Skirt is sangsanicha. Hankena. That means half dress. Okay. And our pants is onzoche. Our shirt is wicha umpi. When we talk about a man, we say wichasha, right? Wichasha. So long time ago, only men wore a shirt. So wicha umpi, right? Wicha is signifies a man. Wicha umpi. Our shoes is chahampa. That would be a boot is a chahampa. And a hampa is a shoe. Okay, something that you wear over your feet, a hampa. And gloves that you wear over your hands, gloves, is napingpa yugagana. Okay, and our cap that we wear over our head is wapaha. Remember, your head is pa, right? Your head is pa. Scarf is tahu ochozie. Tahu is your neck, right? Tahu is your neck, right? Tahu ochozia. That's something you put around your neck. So now this week we're going to go over some simple sentences and verb conjugation. That may mean something that is just out of our vocabulary, right? But when you start making a sentence, just a simple sentence, and you conjugate your verbs, right? So we use a pattern when we start talking Dakota in our sentences. We use a subject and a verb, okay? But the basic English sentence consists of a subject and a verb, right? The basic English sentence. So now remember, we're using Roman orthography in our Dakota language, right? And our phonology and our morphology in our sentences, we use that to create it in, to understand it in Dakota language. So the subject of a sentence is a word that names the person or thing about which something is said, okay? So something is being said about a subject, right? That's what it is. The verb is used to express an action or a state of being. For example, John wants, right? John is the subject and wants is the verb. In many languages, the subject is incorporated into the verb form as a subjective pronoun. One can use a subject in a sentence but it is not necessary. The Dakota language incorporates a subjective pronoun into the verb form. In order to form verbs in Dakota, one must add to the root verb. The root verb is usually listed in the dictionary in the third person singular, she, he, or it form. So we made an example. There's a pattern that we use, and there's many words that you can use. And if you get the chance to buy Dakota verb book, there is oh, what did I do with mine? In that book, there is a lot of words in there that you could change. And I think they sell them at the university. I'm not sure if they sell them there yet, because I know in the past that they did. Okay. So now the root verb we're going to use is chi. Chi, C-I-N, chi. So that means in the English language, she, he, it wants. So now we're going to use the English word is I want. That's what it means. Chi. Remember, I said there's a pattern when we talk about I and you, right? So you recognize that right away from the I and the you, or me and you. Okay, so it's wachi, I want. Yachi, you want, right? She, he, or it wants is chi. You and I, chi. So again, you have to be careful there when you use that word chi, because remember in our family, in our tiwahe, the old grandmother, we called unchi, right? Unchi. So now when you say you and I want, it's uchi. So you have to make sure you use the word properly when you start making your sentences. So uchi, you and I, unchi. When you say grandmother, oldest grandmother. We want is unchi pi. So if it's more than 2 or 3 people, you always add the p at the end. Unchi pi. P goes at the end, right? And you all want is ya chimpi, ya chimpi. But if it's we, all of us together, all of us is unchipi. But just you all want. No, don't include me, is ya chimpi, right? And they over there, them, they want chimpi over there. They want, right? So when you start using this in sentences, right? You learn how to conjugate your verbs, and there's another parts of the speech that'll follow the same pattern, right? So when you start memorizing the pattern, it starts making sense, right? So when you start practicing, we have the 6 T's. Remember, they have the 5 W's: what, when, how, where, who, and why, right? But us, we have the 6 T's. So daku is what? Daku. And when is tuha. Tuha. These words are kind of like questions. One word can be a question, like a one word. It could be like a sentence, just one word. And toked is how. Tokia is where. Tokia, where. Tuwe is who, right? Tuwe. When you speak the language, when you start saying these, there's always a body language that comes along with it, right? And tokcha, why, right? Tokcha. So when you start using these questions, you use your body language too, right? Taku, right? Your head goes and you wonder, So I think a lot of people watch Dances with Wolves, right? On that, they you watch, listen to them, and you see these words on there, and you could see their body language, right? So if you pay attention to that, if you watch it, then you'll see Daku, what? Tuha, Doket, Dokia, Dua, Dokcha right? So you practice those two, and when you learn to question somebody, and if somebody's calling you and say, "Hey, Maureen, Daku," I say, sometimes they don't understand, and I said, "That means what?" Right? So even that one word you teach somebody, and then you start conversing. So there's the simple sentences and verb conjugation, simple root verb and conjugation pattern, right? So when you start learning this, and you learn other words to conjugate. So this, you can take a picture of it or practice it. And if you do have that Dakota language verb book, I wish I had it. I thought I did have it. If you have that, and you can read it, you read it, and it'll tell you how to conjugate them. So the words you can, the verbs you can conjugate, this is the pattern, right? So you just add them on. Remember, when there's more than 2 or 3 people, you always add the pi and the for we, and you all, right? That doesn't include me. Yeah, it doesn't include me. And they, them over there, right? So you have to make sure that that is understood, because if you start using chipi in a sentence where it just includes, and it includes me, people will identify that. Okay. Okay. So now English to Dakota sentences are, because the Dakota words have very specific meanings, they do not always translate into one word in English. For example, chi means want, right? But kipa means to call to somebody, right? Extra English words are needed to clarify the Dakota verb. When you start needing to clarify the Dakota verb, one word can mean a whole sentence, like I said before, right? Kipa is distinct from a verb that may mean to call over to oneself or to call for something. English translations are longer due to the required verb phrase translations. When the word something appears, it is simply a placeholder. Once you learn more words, those words can replace the generic something. For instance, you dig up something will become more specific later, as in you dig up a potato. Okay, so remember how you write the word in the sentence in Dakota, and you write it literally, and you write it in English. Okay, so when you start writing the words in Dakota, literal, and English, so that way it'll make sense to you the way you write it, because you're the one that's going to be writing the words to understand it, right? Since the subject is incorporated into the verb in Dakota, the Dakota sentence will consist of only one word. And that's what I meant, is that one word can mean a whole sentence. Okay. So, bado yak potato you dig up will be the literal translation. The English translation is you dig up a potato, right? Bado yak and yaka means you dig up something. So if you put that verb into the pattern, right? It'll be under the you, yaka right here. This is where it'll go. Okay. That's why you pay attention to where you're going to put it. There's beginning rules for writing sentences. Creating very simple sentences consist of a subject and a verb. The subject comes before or precedes the verb, okay? As in English sentences, you already know that the person is incorporated into the verb. So the Dakota sentence is shunka chi. And I had said that before about putting the subject first. So the subject is shunka and the verb is chi, right? So the literal translation is dog, it wants. Okay. So the English translation is the dog wants, right? So that is there, but it's in our Dakota sentence, we don't really show the. It's implied. Okay. So the words will be implied in Dakota. And again, that's where we use our body language, right? Where we'd nod. If the dog was there, we'd say dog it wants, right? Shunka chi, right? So we'll use our head to nod. So when the examples will be easier to translate when in Dakota than literal translation than English translation. So that's some of the rules, okay? So again, we have our function words. You will notice in Dakota is the absence of equivalent function words for the English words. My internet is unstable. No. The equivalent of function words for the English words, a and the. So again, in Dakota, these words are implied, and I mentioned that before, that they are implied. So again, our body language, when we speak the Dakota language, we use a lot of body language, nodding, pointing, gesturing, hand gesturing, or like that, or giving eye language, right? And that's where some of us, we point with our lips. So a lot of things are implied. The literal translation of the dog wants, it's simply shunka chi. If you want to use more than one noun, subject, or object, you must create a plural. And I talked about the plural, how you use numbers, right? So when you make a plural, a Dakota word into a plural, you add a number, right? Or else you add the quantity word, right? You add a quantity word to make it a plural, okay? So it depends on the word you're going to use to make it a plural, or you add a number. So again, plural forms. Creating plurals are made with using quantity words. The Dakota noun does not change to reflect number. You can use a number such as numpa or quantity words, onke, owasen, or tonana, okay? When adding these words to the sentence for quantity words follows the word they are quantifying. For example, note the placement of the word topa, which means for, and the change in the verb form from she, he, it forms to the they form, okay? So the Dakota sentence is shunka topa chimp-i. Remember I said when there's more, you have to add the pi at the end, the p. So shunka topa chimp-i. So the literal translation is dog for, and the implied word is they want. The English translation is 4 dogs want. Okay. So the descriptive words follow the nouns they describe. Okay. So when you're describing something, you add the color and you add the number, right? You can always add more, right? So always add the PI at the end. Okay. So I want to go at one more slide before we finish. The negatives. To create a negative sentence or word, place the word shni after the word you want to negate or make negative. You can negate a verb or a noun by placing this word after it. So again, our Dakota sentence is shunka chi shni. So shni is a negative that it's that you don't want, right? That's it, shni. The literal translation is dog, no, it wants. Again, it is implied. And whenever you put an implied word in there, English implied word, you always put it in brackets. It's for you to understand your sentence, okay? And to put it in brackets, and it's only for you. And when you do it in syllables, your Dakota words, will do it in syllables for you to understand. And you can even write the English words smaller underneath or over the Dakota words. So the English translation for that is no dog wants, right? So if you want to add another word to that to make it more descriptive, shunka chishni tado. Tado is meat, remember? So shunka chishni tado. No dog, it wants meat, right? No dog wants meat, right? And I know when you start making your sentences, they wouldn't make sense, right? But you're creating a sentence for yourself just to learn Dakota, okay? So shni at the end of a word is to make it negative, make the sentence negative. So anybody have any questions? Oh, this one makes more sense. To negate the verb, place shni after the verb the dog does not want would be shunka chishni. And again, literal translation, dog, it wants not. Again, it is implied, right? So you put it in brackets. And once you start learning to do this, it goes easier. It makes it easier for you to understand, right? So you can practice that. And I think you guys get these in the email after, right? I'm not sure.
We get them in the email before the class.
Yay! This PowerPoint, or you get the old one?
We get the one that we're discussing that day.
Okay, good. Because I always update it, the PowerPoint, to update it and make it more accessible for you guys to use. Because when I first started it, I only made 10 slides. I thought, well, what can you do in an hour? I was thinking, right? 7:55. I'll do one more slide. Okay, more than one descriptive word or words. If there are more than one quantifying or descriptive words describing one noun, they follow the noun in the inverse order that they would in English. For example, the 3 black dogs want becomes shunka sapa yamani chimpi. Okay, so that is our Dakota sentence, our descriptive Dakota sentence. Shunka sapa yamani tipi or chimpi. I made a mistake in that, didn't I? I'm using they live. I'll change that.
Actually, I just looked at the email again. Though it looks like those are the same slides from like last time. Like
Really?
from the very first class,
Okay.
yeah. So the last thing on there is like the close and the closing like biography of yourself.
Well, they have to update that.
I thought it was changing
Right.
each time they were sending like a document, but it's
I
still the
did
same one.
too.
I
I
don't know if
was
anyone else is like that.
I don't get them, unfortunately. I will speak to Reconciliation Regina as well as RPL to see if I can get those updated for all of you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it looks like you have lots of slides there. I think, yeah, I only got the first 10 and you're already on 28.
Sorry, I thought everybody was on the same page as me. Well, no, this won't fit on there. But you guys can see what I'm putting on here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Dakota sentence, Shunka Sapa Yamani Chimp E. So literally, always do your literal translation. It's easier. So dog black 3 they want. That's what literally it means. So people always wonder, why do you guys talk backwards, right? When I explain it that way, because the English translation means the 3 black dogs they want, right? So then you have to add something in there, right? When we said you have to add something in there, so you can add taro, bado, like some kind of food or drink, right? So it's up to you to put a something in there, okay? So I hope you guys get this new PowerPoint. Well, maybe next one, maybe the last class, you'll get everything. And here I'm telling you guys, well, you guys screenshot what I put up there, okay? Any questions? My